Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to another episode of the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. It seems that an increasing number of devices now enable us to use biometric authentication. Anything that means I don't have to remember the first, the fifth and ninth letter of a password is all good by me. I mean, we can now unlock our smartphones with our face and pay for goods using our fingerprint. Biometrics, make no mistake, are now officially mainstream. And BioConnect is a technology company with fundamentally different approach to identity. It's developed its own BioConnect ID, which is a translator of biometrics to live at the very core of every product. Before you say why, because BioConnect wants to empower a safer, more efficient world by transforming the nature of both authentication and identification. The company believes that without an identity that is rightfully owned by the consumer, there is a gap in trust between organisations, places and people. And that is the problem it's attempting to solve. But to be honest, they had me at biometrics, so buckle up and hold on tight, because I'm going to beam your ears all the way to Toronto, Canada, so we can speak with Rob Douglas from BioConnect. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Rob. Can you tell me a little more about who you are and what you do?
It'd be my pleasure. My name is Rob Douglas. I'm the founder and CEO of BioConnect, and we're on the quest for rightful identity. We fundamentally believe in a future where 7.5 billion of us can all be ourselves to prove who we are. And we believe that that provides an opportunity for a lot more accountability within our system and can significantly reduce fraud and cyber fraud. And the way we do it is we do it through the eyes of actually who you are. So if you can imagine a world where how can I take things that are just fundamentally unique about who I am and put them into a platform that all applications in the world can use to replace passwords and upgrade with what we call rightful identity. That's the world we live in.
Fantastic. I think a lot of people are getting more and more familiar with biometrics now, especially with new smartphones such as the new iPhone, where you're unlocking the phone with your face, assuming it works on Apple's case there, which is not probably a great example. But as for yourselves at BioConnect, it's a technology company which fundamentally different approach to identity. But for many people listening, this will be their first introduction to exactly what you guys do and who you are. So can you offer a bit of an overview of BioConnect and also what that different approach to identity is?
Yes, I can. Through the eyes of an experience I've gone through, which is I used to be the CEO of BioScript, which was the market leader of fingerprint recognition systems. And I think the best way I can help your audience is describe the problem. The difficulty is all of these biometric sensors and new innovations come into the market and have been for over 10 years now, but why aren't they being consumed? Like, why aren't they everywhere? Like, what's with the password? What's with using cards to get into doors? What's with the credit card, for that matter?
Yeah.
Like, what's with all of these suspect identities that we're walking around with? Why wouldn't we want to be ourselves to prove who we are? Well, the fundamental problem is that the world as constructed, you know, if you think of 80 or 100 years worth of IT innovation, never contemplated biometric templates. Everything in the world assumes a password or a card number. And so that's the real fundamental reason why we are not consuming biometric authentication in every transaction that we do. So we decided 8 years ago, we're going to go solve this problem. This is our contribution to get to the world of identity. The problem we're going to solve is how do we allow biometrics of all types and curate them into a platform to allow any software developer or any business to be able to plug it into their applications and upgrade to the real identity of people. That's really the fundamental problem we solve. Now, what's your alternative? Your alternative is to go find your favorite biometric, whether it's on a smartphone or whether it's on a wearable or whether it's on a fixed device on a wall, and do a point-to-point integration into the application. And what I would say to your audience, having done this for so many years as the CEO of BioScript, it's just, you'll never be successful. You'll complete the integration. 2 years from now, the world will have changed. You will want to have made change, and you can't because you're locked into this integration that you've made with one biometric that you thought was the best one on the market. And so how do you create a world where you become actually agnostic to all of that innovation and separate yourself from that and yet still be able to offer the identity of people? That's fundamentally the problem we solve and what makes us different. I guess the other thing that makes us different, we don't believe in any one biometric as the winner. Rather, we believe in all of them. We believe them in combination, depending on the security of the transaction you're doing, and you can use them in combination. And so we believe in that freedom for the user, and we believe in the security of using multiple. So we learned also years ago that this idea of, what's the final biometric, it's just not important through our eyes.
So BioConnect ID, like you say, there's a translator of biometrics to live at the core of every product offered by BioConnect. But can you expand on this a little bit more, just to help listeners visualise how it works? I don't know if you've got any use cases or examples that would just help them out there.
Yes, I'd be happy to. So I'll give you a couple of use cases. So one use case is, you might be familiar with an RSA token. So what is an RSA token? It's a piece of plastic. Funny enough, it's in the shape of a key, and it has a revolving number on it. And the purpose of this one-time password is that the user to use that password when they need to get into an application, for this case, for approving a wire transfer, as an example. Now, what's wrong with that story? Well, on one level, there's nothing wrong with it. The password's changing, so it's more secure. We call it's a more sophisticated secret. But it's not me. It never will be me. In fact, I can tell you, we're based in Toronto. I have an RSA token that we use for wire transfers. I was in San Francisco, and my CFO called and said, Rob, you need to approve this wire. And I said, please go into my office, get my RSA token, and read the number to me over the phone, and I'll punch it in.
Yeah, I've been there.
So that is not identity. That is a secret, but the secret still can be shared, and I'm a living example of sharing the secret. So that's one world. Or what about the replacement of actually you? So in the same example, I'm going to need to do a wire transfer. How about receiving a notification to your mobile device asking you to do a step-up authentication of 2 biometrics? In this case, let's say we do your eyes and your face, or we do your eyes and your voice, or we have some behavioral information that we've already captured about your use of the phone. So why don't we get to the real identity of the person before we let that wire transfer happen? Now, the reason why I picked the wire transfer is it's sort of important. You know that, I'm sure we all know that once you've actually approved a wire, you can't get it back. Yeah. It's irrevocable. The money leaves your account, goes to somebody else's account, and you cannot have it back. So because of the sort of the importance of the transaction, identity becomes important. Another example would be what about just getting into your data center or your co-location facility, like the modern day factory? Today, to us, the modern day factory is all the data that's being created and stored. How do you protect who actually gets access to the data center or cabinets within the data center? And so you may know this, but when cabinet manufacturers build cabinets, they actually issue the same key. So if I go buy 1,000 cabinets right now, I'll get 1,000 cabinets with the same key. How do you solve that problem? Yeah. I'm going to bring a locksmith and do 1,000 doors to make them all different and walk around with a big chain. Am I going to use a card, or why don't you use biometrics on all 1,000? They'll be unique to the person getting access to it.
Fantastic. And another thing that really put you on my radar there was, I think you're building strategic partnerships with banking, which makes perfect sense after that story there, fintech, blockchain and security. Can you tell me a bit about those strategic partnerships, and also, how's it going?
Yes, we've been working on an important part of our value to the marketplace is to build frictionless technology in a cloud-based platform, and then work with smart partner network in order to be able to bring our technology to market to our customers. So we've been actually in the what we call the smart partner ecosystem world for about 8 years now. We have just over 50 partnerships worldwide, and these are partnerships that are in multiple segments of our society. You mentioned about financial services, and in the security space, these particular areas where we've got great partnerships who actually help enable our technology to be deployed within a customer environment.
So as this technology evolves, and we're looking at, like you said yourself there, sensor agnostic to a certain degree, do you see biometrics, AI and machine learning all being the essential ingredients to your biometric solution? And how do you think this will help the technology evolve by putting all three together?
Yes, we do. I really particularly like that question. And obviously, a lot of people are talking about AI and machine learning, and everybody's looking at how to make use of it in their business or in their solutions. In our particular case, if you can imagine a world where you've got this identity platform, an enterprise identity platform of authentication, we're collecting information, behavioral information about how you're using your laptop or how you're using your phone or how you're actually operating with your biometric wearable. And then we're supplementing that with proactive biometrics like asking for face recognition and so on. These are all one-time moments of your identity. How do you create a world of continuous or persistent identity? How do we have continuous authentication that is actually still me, even talking to you right now? And so we see AI and machine learning as the next step towards building an algorithm that actually captures and understands all of this template information in order to be able to build an identity score of who you are. And so we see what we call as a trust AI as a key part of being able to build a persistent or continuous authentication methodology.
Now, as an IT guy, I also read a great article recently about biometric audit trails that can actually thwart data center insider attacks. I mean, can you expand on that for anyone listening that's in the world of IT as well that might have missed that article?
Well, yes, we can. And in this particular use case, as I think about it, it's referring actually a bit to what I commented about earlier, which is that this idea that is where your data lives. So when you think about within your data centers themselves, right now these are many data centers, even today, are still being protected by a piece of plastic. Can you imagine that? Think of all of the data being created, and I would estimate probably at least 80% of all of the data centers, the last line of defense is a piece of plastic that I could hand on a card that I could hand to somebody else to get in. So how do you, from an insider attack perspective, how do you actually have complete transparency of identity into the data center facilities or co-location facilities? And equally importantly, how do you bring transparency of identity right down to individual cabinets? Because not everybody should be able to get access to, in this case, my earlier case of 1,000 cabinets. So this is absolutely an emerging market opportunity. It's also compliance related. Companies are doing it to be able to be compliant in terms of how they're protecting data. And the only way to ultimately do it is you've got to bring biometric authentication right down to the individual server cabinet in order to prevent those insider attacks.
So there's going to be a lot of people listening thinking that this technology is incredibly exciting, but they're still held back by not knowing where to even start with a biometrics investment. I mean, what would you advise is the beginning point for any company or brand listening?
Okay, I'm going to start with what not to do.
Yeah.
What not to do, don't pick your favorite biometric and begin an integration to your software platform. Don't do it. If your audience gains nothing more from me, from my 14 years as a student of this industry, just don't do that.
Yeah.
Rather, take an approach of saying, I'm going to take a platform approach to solving this problem, and you could pick our platform, and there are other technologies that are emerging in the market, and begin with even as simply as like a proof of concept. Like very shortly, you're going to be able to come to our website at bioconnect.com, and you'll be able to download an open API and SDK for the sole purpose of being able to do a proof of concept, take our technology, plug it into your mobile phone, plug it into your application, and try it. And it's got 4 biometrics built into the platform that you can go ahead and consume and just experience it. And so I think that's a very low risk, effective way of being able to experiment with the technology before you go into larger rollouts. But I think that's, to me, probably the most effective way on how to move forward with biometrics.
It also seems that the success of any technology is usually down to user adoption as well. And I can't help but notice this year in particular that now smartphones are increasingly being unlocked by face or fingerprint, that it's on the cusp of going mainstream. I mean, are you seeing that as well? And how do you see that progressing once it enters the mainstream?
Yes, we do, Neil. In fact, I would actually argue we've now hit mainstream, and I'll tell you why. Is that there's market evidence out there and reports out there that are now 800 million people worldwide using biometric authentication to get into their phone every day.
Yeah.
And so the smartphone manufacturers have done really a great service to the planet in being able to educate and the world on the consumption and use of it. We also see other reports, if that's not enough evidence for your audience, there's reports out there that by 2020, all smartphones that are shipped will be biometric enabled. So if we're not mainstream now, we're mainstream in a very short unit of time where the planet is or will become very comfortable in using biometric authentication for getting access.
And that's got to mean the end of the password, surely. Please.
Well, I think it's on its way. I mean, you could do your own inventory. I have 28 identities of who I am. Wow. There are 28 physical and digital identities I use to conduct my life, and the average is somewhere between 25 and 50. So if you can imagine a world where there's one person with one identity, that's going to be a pretty special place when that happens.
Absolutely. So I've got to ask as well, what's next for BioConnect? Is there anything else you can share with us today about the future and what you're planning over the next 18 months?
Well, I think the guiding light or the true north for us is to continue to make the technology more and more frictionless to be able to consume, and to continue to enhance the security of what we're doing. And the way that we're planning on doing that is that we're planning on making it incredibly simple for the 14 million mobile developers in the world to be able to consume our technology. Biometrics historically has sometimes been tough and a little more complicated to work with. What we're planning to release very soon is really aimed and designed for the software development community at large to be able to upgrade and take full advantage of a platform in the most simplest way possible for any application on a mobile device or on a web-based application. So that's probably the next biggest area that we're focused on. And then I would add to that and say that this type of technology can be used, although we're focused on the financial service industry, fintechs and insurtech, we're also seeing that there will be tremendous markets in healthcare, telecommunications, and every other vertical segment in the world will be able to consume these technologies over the coming few years.
Now, before I let you go, can you remind anyone listening of your website details and also how to contact a member of your team if they have any questions about our conversation today?
Yes, the easiest way to reach us is to contact us at bioconnect.com. We're also live on Twitter and LinkedIn, and you can reach us there as well at BioConnect for both of those. And through that form, you can make contact directly with any of us.
Excellent. Well, I'll add all those links to the show notes so people can get hold of you nice and easy. So a big thank you for coming on the show today, Rob. I think everything we've talked about here, it's not just about the death of the password, but it's about keeping identities safe and secure. So I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and explain it all to us. So a big thank you for coming on today, Rob.
Neil, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having us.
By using technology from the leading biometrics providers, BioConnect ID is taking elements such as a person's face, voice, eyes and behaviours, or what I should say is any biometric type, and it acts as a translator for identity, so a person's bank, payments provider, personal computer or favourites app knows it's them. But what fascinates me is just a few years ago this was science fiction, but it's now available, and it's increasingly becoming our expectation. And hopefully it won't be too long before we can finally wave goodbye to the dreaded password too. So this is something that will eventually affect us all, and I'd love to know what you think about biometric authentication, identification, and indeed BioConnect. This is your show too, and I deeply value your expertise and insights. So if you're listening to me on the number 79 bus or the 709 train, why not tweet me at Neil C. Hughes and tell me what you think? Or if you don't do Twitter, send me an email to techblogwriter@outlook.com. But that's it, I'm afraid we're out of time once again. Where do the days, weeks and hours go? But I'll be back tomorrow bright and early with another show and another great guest. So thanks for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.